Hi, my name is Nicole Stockman, and I'm going to talk about the National Environmental Policy Act, otherwise known as NEPA. I will give you my overall first impression of NEPA, what surprised me about the law, and what distinguishes NEPA from other laws. The National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, is the first piece of legislation to encourage harmony between man and his environment in order to protect our planet and the life that exists on it. My first impression is that NEPA as a law does not seem to enforce, but is rather left open for interpretation. While I deem it necessary to employ a national law to promote and enforce harmony between humans and their planet, I find that NEPA in its execution relies heavily on promotion rather than enforcement. I tend to agree with Professor Whitworth that while the intentions of NEPA are indeed the first of its kind and warranted, amendments are needed to make the document more substantive rather than procedural. From what I can tell by reading the document, the Council on Environmental Quality, or CEQ, was developed to modernize federal implementation of NEPA to ensure maximum effectiveness. But when reading the guidelines of the CEQ that are supposed to reinvigorate NEPA, it seems that these guidelines are only optional to each agency rather than law. The document utilizes the word should repeatedly. Agencies should commit to mitigation. Agencies should monitor. Agencies should make diligent efforts. Well, my first thought was, what if they don't? I feel that NEPA is holistic in nature and on paper, with appropriate concern and intentions to preserve our planet and the lives that occupy it. The problem that is encountered is that the law is being executed by a naturally anthropocentric human being, agencies with their own agenda, or perhaps an agency that is not well versed on the issues at stake. Overall, for me, NEPA represents the beginning of mankind's understanding of their positive or negative impact on the planet. It offers inspiration, hope, and promise to set us on the right path to protect our planet. NEPA strives to join forces between agencies and the public to consider possible alternatives. This discourages poor proposals and wasted time and money. But in my opinion, it does need to be more authoritative. What surprised me? First, I was surprised by the fluidity and adaptive nature of the law. While I do believe it is necessary to have some flexibility, the fluidity of NEPA, in my opinion, may have too much wiggle room. I envision the potential for conflict between NEPA agents who possess differing opinions on the level of assessment required for a given project. This in itself not only causes conflict, but reduces effectiveness. Additionally, I endorse the thorough nature of the impact assessments that are required by NEPA, but have concerns about the length of time it will take agencies to execute mitigation. In some cases, I would imagine time is of the essence. Secondly, the role of the CEQ is a big question mark for me, as it seems to play the same role as NEPA. It has good intentions, but is seemingly optional in its language. Thirdly, there does not seem to be enough delineation between federal, state, and local expectations in regard to adhering to NEPA. Is NEPA strictly for federal agencies? Overall, I note that the NEPA law engages action at the federal level, but then in Section 102, it issues a blanket statement for authorities at the state and local levels. It only indicates that resources to implement NEPA are readily available, but not necessarily required. Lastly, I was not aware that the public has the opportunity to participate and have their own voices heard. This not only allows participation, but a better understanding as a citizen on how environmental impact assessments are handled by our government. What distinguishes NEPA from other laws? NEPA is the first law of its kind to identify factors that impact environmental integrity, not only to consider environmental factors, but social and economic factors as well. NEPA applies only to the United States government, providing a procedural framework for agencies to consider and implement according to their needs. It encourages interagency coordination and public participation, which allows for transparency. It also provides a thorough, systematic analysis of an environmental issue to evaluate consequences that could negatively impact our environment. In closing, we as humans need to repair what we have done to our air, land, and water, not only for ourselves, but future generations as well. I am not convinced NEPA is the answer, but it has definitely laid the groundwork for us to build off of. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the other forum posts.